Searching for articles in a database like PsycArticles is a little different than searching in Google, so it's helpful to think about the search process before we try to find an article. The type of information we find with a Google search is obviously different than we find in a database. The way we find that information is also different. We can be a little more specific in our searches in a database. Sometimes we have to be more specific. If I just copy and paste my research question into Google, it'll return results. If I just enter the question in the search for PsycArticles, though, it says there weren't any results, and the one it suggests based on a backup search aren't really related. To focus my search, I need to think about my variables, or the main topics I'm interested in. I can use those words to start. If we think about the parts of a research design, we might remember that college students are really the population that this question is focused on. That can be considered a topic in a more general sense of that idea, but for now, I'm going to be more focused on what I think will be varying for that group. In this case, that'd be coping behaviors and stress. Now that we have our keywords, we can think a little more about the structure of the search. There's a basic search screen, but I prefer the advanced search options because they make it easier to be specific with my search. The course resources include a quick reference guide that explains the search options. That guide's for PsycInfo, but PsycArticles uses the same structure. They're both from APA and sort of like siblings in the database world. The guide highlights different parts of the search menu, including the words in the drop-down menus to the left of the search fields. Those are called Boolean operators and help us be more precise. Our topic is a good example of when the Boolean operators can be really helpful. If we simply search for the word stress, we have more than 13,000 results, and many of them relate to post-traumatic stress disorder. When I conducted the search to prepare these materials, the first article was about that topic. Given that the articles about post-traumatic stress disorder are focused on a specific population, individuals with PTSD, and that's not the population we're interested in, it's helpful to refine our search to eliminate those results. We can do that by changing one of the Boolean options to not. Post-traumatic stress disorder is also used frequently enough that the database suggests that search term after I type in the word post. Then, if I enter a space after disorder, it will suggest the phrase to exclude all of the terms and phrases related to post-traumatic stress disorder. Eliminating the articles about PTSD takes out about 3,000 results, but there are still about 10,000. We haven't added the second search term, but before we do that, it might be helpful to think about what fields we're searching. If we don't select something from the drop-down menu to the right of the search term, it uses the default fields noted in the slide and from the database guide. The drop-down menu includes a long list of fields. Thinking about what we know about APA style helps us think about which fields might be helpful. For example, authors are encouraged to include the study variables in the article title. So if I want to find articles with primary source information about stress, I might search the title field. That drops a lot of results. We're down to 2,300. We'll reduce that number even more when we add our second keyword, which also gives us a chance to think about other options we have for the search. I phrase the question using the word cope, but we tend to talk about coping. We can include both words in our search using the truncation option. More specifically, we replace the E in cope with an asterisk. Aside from the fact that 448 articles are a lot to look through, skimming the first page of the results also helps us realize that many of the articles are about specific populations, and they aren't college students. In some cases, we can reduce the number of results using the options in the Refine Results section on the left in the results list. In other cases, it's more helpful to add another row to the search, so we can include another term in the search. At this point, you might be wondering how many results you should have, and there's not a clear-cut answer. It varies depending on the goal of the search. If you narrow it down to just one or two articles, you probably won't get an idea of how the other researchers are thinking about the variables. If you have too many, though, it can be overwhelming, which makes it hard to focus in general and in the sense of thinking about the related variables. Collectively, all of this information can help you prepare to find an article in PsycArticles or almost any academic databases. Using Boolean operators can help you combine ideas or exclude ideas, especially when the database already knows what you're thinking, so to speak. Thinking about the search fields and what's included in those fields can also help in narrowing a search, while using truncation and other wording strategies can help include all the variations on a word. We can continue to focus a search using additional terms or refining the results options. The goal is to narrow the results so you can comfortably review them all and get a sense of how other researchers are thinking about the variables. Goal is not to narrow it down to one article without looking at any abstracts.